we basically find ourselves in relationship with everything that we're bringing into our world, everything we look at, everything that we hear, everything we see on TV, everything that sparks an emotion within us. We kind of are in relationship with it. And what kind of behavior are we bringing forth in that relationship? Hi, I'm Shakti Durga. Welcome to Mystery School, ancient wisdom for everyday life. A space where we explore the sacred, awaken inner knowledge, solve problems, and learn to live from the divine within. Hello, welcome back to Mystery School. Lovely to be with you. Recently in our Mystery School, we had a visit from a goddess that comes frequently called Artha. Artha is most frequently associated with the Celtic mythology, and she gives us the most amazing discourses and instructions, which we then try our best to put into practice. In fact, there's a podcast that I did called The Goddess Speaks, which is a number of the Goddess Artha's transmissions that have come through the years. And the following week after the transition, we then unpack the one that was recorded last time, and we look at it from a more analytical and objective means. And so in this way, we're combining the oral tradition of just opening to the divine wisdom with the more written tradition of you organize things into a logical and analytical process driven type of thing. So I thought today that we might take one of Artha's discourses that happened a month or two ago and just have a look at it through our own lens and look at it from where are you up to in your life right now, what's working for you, what's not working for you, and where do you feel a bit disempowered. So this was a discourse on the nature of divine power. So I'll read some of it and then we'll chat about it. So I think that'll be the best way. So this came about, as I say, a few weeks ago, a couple of months ago maybe, and Artha was talking about power as being often seen as an ugly term by human beings, because very often when power is given to individuals, that power can go to people's head and end up being used for egoic purposes. It can lead to arrogance, it can lead to power over, and it can result in courses of action that you might think in hindsight, not sure that was all a very good idea. And so she's distinguishing that from divine power and saying it's true that if a person has admixed energies inside them, which means some beautiful, amazing energies, but also some unprocessed energies, then even the best ideas, even the most exalted kinds of inspirations, when put into practice, even with the best intention, the results that are going to come into our lives will be a bit admixed because the unprocessed energies are affecting the outcome. So how do you feel about that context that will happen? And we see it all around us, don't we? We see a solution for one thing creating another problem. You see that in environmental movements all the time. You see it in development of new suburbs, solving the problem of where's everyone going to live. We need more housing. And then we have a problem with there's not enough trees, ecosystems are destroyed, etc. So we're talking about consciousness giving rise to certain outcomes. So she says, for those who are on a spiritual path and who are working steadfastly in the development of your own being, we are held to a high account, and that's because we're spiritual beings here having a spiritual experience. And for some people, that's the core of our lives. We've gotten to a stage where our spirituality is central and other parts of life are supportive of our spirituality. So, of course, we have our family connections, we have community connections, we have to make money, we have to live in society. All of that is not to be ignored, but central is our spirituality. So if your spirituality is central to you, then that would give you certain ways of looking at the world and a certain kind of dharma that is the dharma of a spiritual person. And the spiritual person's dharma and their power is to be derived from the connection to the divine in the way of continually processing everything that's coming up within to bring forth more of the illumination that comes from the overcoming of spiritual problems and awakening to more of who we are. So that's what we're here for. But Artha was saying that, some people have different dharma because their station in life is different. And she used a word that is one of the words for one of the Indian caste systems, kshatriya, and that's the warrior class, or the class that leads the culture, politicians, statesmen, kings, that sort of person is a kshatriya. And she said those people have different dharma to someone who's of a spiritual sort of class. And she said that basically that they have to do things that we don't have to. They're responsible for things we're not responsible for. And that when we judge them, when we don't like what they're doing and we judge them, then what happens is we add our spiritual power through a lens of judgment to that person. And what happens is when you judge something, you kind of super glue it into the form that it's already taken. Judgment becomes like super glue. So the more we judge people and situations, the more we're adding our energy to it being that way. Not meaning to, because we don't actually want it to be that way. But we're not putting our energy into changing, we're putting our energy into judging, and it just sticky tapes the things in place. And she said, the more you do that with public figures, the more you're going to have, the people of admixed disposition, it'll bring out the worst in them because that's what you're expecting, and it'll bring out the worst. And she said one of the hardest things for people in spiritual circles is to remember that our job is to lift, to shift, to have compassion, and to open doors of possibility through the work we do internally ourselves, which can have a great effect upon what's going on in the consciousness of the groups that we belong with, and can even affect people we don't even know. It can affect people in other parts of the world. It can, have an effect on those whose dharma is different to ours. So the more we judge and criticize, the more they will behave in the ways we're judging and criticizing, and the less power they will have to rise above the things that we're not liking, because we're putting our power into keeping them squashed into how they are already. So she says that in the public domain, in the Kshatriya class, you'll mainly find people who are dealing with all kinds of complications, and that they often feel forced to act in ways that perhaps they don't even like themselves, but they feel like they have no choice, and that more problems get created. And that they don't have an insight into being in any way connected to what they're creating in their life. They just see it as, well, that's how life is, or something out there is making it happen. Other people, other groups, other countries, other nations, they're the problem. And we never really look at being the star of our own show, or that the world is something to do with us. So she said that if you do have a spiritual education, that we can use that to recover from the judgment that we've been in, and that when we recover from judgment, we gain the power of love and compassion, and that these are real powers. Artha has been teaching us that real power exists in love. As far as I can tell from all of the great spiritual traditions of the world, everybody agrees that there is a power in love. So what's that power like, and how are we blocking it? Well, if we use love very selectively, I'll only love that which I already like, which is already in the form that I like it in, and I'm not going to extend love to anything else, then love's radiance and redemption energy and the power of love is only going to sit in the bits where you're using it, and it won't flow through the parts that you're not using. It won't flow into areas that you've judged as bad and horrible. So it's a bit of a paradox, isn't it? That we think of love as, I want to love people who are like me. I want to love people who agree with me. I want to love people that I can really relate to easily. But that's the beginner class in love, frankly. And that all the great mystics have always taught that our job is to expand our heart in love. And that means not only loving more, but loving wider as well, loving more broadly, being able to have a sense of love. And through love, we're able to meet our world and take actions that have a different outcome to if we didn't have love. And whilst we also need to have boundaries, boundaries can be employed with love in the heart. And so many of us, I think, when we're new to this, or even when we've played around with it a bit, one of the potholes on the path can be that when we process our anger and our judgment and our fear and all these things, we process all of that, we come into a place of deep compassion, and then suddenly we can't be bothered having the conversation anymore, or we don't want to take an action. We don't think there's a need to put a boundary in place because I've just processed all that energy and so I'm fine now. But then when it happens again, because we haven't put a boundary in place, we get really angry. In fact, more angry, because we thought we dealt with this, but here it is again. So the journey of loving more than we've ever loved before also comes with a journey of knowing that there's boundaries to be put in place and conversations to be had, maybe letters to be written, but not from a place of you're a bad person, I'm a good person. Because when we do that, people don't listen to us. Have you ever found that people will listen to you if you're judging them and criticizing them? And unless you have some sort of power over them and you can force them, but then that's not coming from the divine, that's coming from an ego's way of doing things. That's actually coming from darkness. But when we have an actual opportunity to be adding energy of love into a situation, it might not change straight away, but you're adding a beneficial change energy so that when things do change, it'll be better than before. Because if we just keep heaping vitriol and angst and anger and blame and derision and scorn into a situation, then you might get rid of the person that you're directing all of that to, but the next person's just as bad. And you think, God, I was better with the devil I knew than the devil I don't know. And so that's why, because we're not transmuting things. So the great power of love becomes like an alchemical fire through which we can start to dissolve, disintegrate, and transmute all of the different heavy energies of scorn, derision, judgment, hatred, anything like that, to transform that energy and then put it into our world as a transformed energy. So at the beginning, that energy is very dark. If you look at it clairvoyantly, it's messy, it's dark. But if we work with these fiery processes of transformation, often through forgiveness processes, often through blessings or powerful spiritual interventions, going to temples, going to powerful places in nature, and being able to open to powers greater than ourselves. If you're part of a spiritual lineage, inviting your spiritual lineage to come in and help you with this sort of work, and be earnest in your desire to not be sitting there adding your energy to what's already a problem, but instead to be starting to be part of the cleanup team that is transmuting those energies to give rise to something better coming along down the track. When we're working in this divine way towards empowerment and change, we're not in control, so to speak. What we are is servants. We are arms of the infinite. I like to think of it as arms of the Divine Mother, doing something good in service to a good cause in the world. And we just plug away. We just plug it away at cleaning up our stuff. Oh, there I go again. I better clean that bit up. Energy healing can be fantastic as a tool to help you clean up. In Ignite Your Spirit, which is what we do in Shanti Mission, It's really alchemical and quite shamanic, and it really works to change energy. So basically, Artha has been telling us that we shouldn't really judge our contemporaries, particularly those who are not part of a deep spiritual training and not part of a deep spiritual discipline, because that's not their path in life. It's our path in life. And for us to refrain from living in the judgment and living in the pain of that judgment. And she said, everyone's playing their part in the cycles of light and dark, and the cycles of things growing, things dissolving again, something else grows, it lasts for a while and then it dissolves. So in that impermanence cycle, we're all playing a part. And basically she was saying that if the darkness appears to be winning, and it might look like that for a while, it's not the end of the cycle. You're still somewhere in the middle of the cycle. And eventually the light always overcomes the darkness. But how does it do that? Often it's through us deciding we don't want to be choosing the darkness, that we actually want to choose another way. And the way we want to choose is the way of love. And it takes a bit of strength to do that. It takes a bit of tenacity and patience as well, because sometimes the results can be pretty fast, but other times it takes a lot longer. So we basically find ourselves in relationship with everything that we're bringing into our world, everything we look at, everything that we hear, everything we see on TV, everything that sparks an emotion within us. We kind of are in relationship with it. And what kind of behavior are we bringing forth in that relationship? Another thing that's been taught to us in the past is that every being in some subconscious way is aware of what everybody else thinks about them, what everybody else feels about them. Everybody is aware. And this feeds into the natural laws of attraction and repulsion, and brings some things closer and puts some things further away from us. And that, you know, if we want to have a better relationship with somebody, if we would like to hold another possibility for how somebody could behave, then we've got to really look at the relationships that we have with what's going on. So, yeah, that's kind of the message, I suppose, that we're not forcing others to change. We're changing ourselves, bringing forth a clearer, cleaner energy ourselves, dealing with our own challenges and our own disappointments and our own judgments. Because as Artha says, you will never stop the world creating adversity. You'll never stop poverty. You'll never stop injustice. But that we all have a role to play in trying to do so. That we all have dharma, we all have a path of trying to make the world a better place, to ameliorate the heavy effects of darkness and admixed decisions that are being made in the world. And that this is an expression of the deepest essence of who we are, and it will give us a deep satisfaction to be involved in that. So it's a lot, isn't it, to think about, but there are veils of illusion everywhere, and we're subject to them whether we like it or not. And we help create them. We help keep them in place by whatever we judge we're supergluing. So just think about that. And sometimes it's very popular in our culture to be judging certain individuals, certain ideas, becomes very much a sport almost. But is that good for us? Is that good for the culture? Is it good to be part of that or not? And we have to start contemplating these things and deciding, would I really want to be on the receiving end of that? And if I was, would that kind of energy make me want to change, or would it make me feel more defensive and like digging my heels in and justifying some untenable, ridiculous position? And that's what happens a lot of the time when we try and combat something from judgment. People just dig their heels in. So even practically, it's not a great way forward. We can force a change, but the energy of force and control over is then part of the energy of what comes next. So it's still going to be messy. And you see this in countless images of revolution and social constructs in the past, and nations rising and falling and trying to do better, but in fact sometimes going backwards. So what do? Well, we clean up. We clean up ourselves, we clean up our own relationships, and we start to get a lot more mindful in what we say and how we say it. We start to think about, do I want to just verbally abuse people that I don't even know because they're in the public domain, they don't know me and I don't know them apart from what's on TV or on social media? Or do I actually want to pray for them? Do I want to send love in the hope that that love would awaken something within them that would help them transform? So love has got power in it. Light by itself, it's really more information. But love's got power in it. When you're able to put love and light together, you're on a winning formula, a winning combination. But in the mysteries, we always look at light, love, and power as being 3 strands of the divine. And for us, in the human condition, love's the one that we should probably focus on, and it will bring us into better cycles. So there you go. I think that's enough really for now, but if you like, we can just run through a few healing releases that might help us to let go of some of the things that we're holding on to. So if you'd like to, you can just get ready now for a bit of meditation, and it'll be a healing meditation today, and we'll just do 10 minutes or so of that kind of thing. So just taking a breath in and centering yourself and speaking to the vulnerable part of self within, to your subconscious field, and just say, I now release all negative energy, negative thoughts, negative vibrations, and negative emotions from my body, mind, and spirit. And breathe in and releasing. And just think of a situation in your life where there might be a lot of unprocessed judgment that is still sitting out there, that might be super gluing a problem in place and creating other people digging their heels in. And just breathe in and say, I ask the divine to help me to dissolve and disintegrate all of the unprocessed judgment that is holding in place problems and adding to the strength of the problem. I release this now, and breathe deeply in and then releasing. And now the antidote to judgment is compassion. And judgment is a pointy energy. You're looking at pointy things. Compassion is more like a great big light shining and looking at much more of the person. Judgment just looks at a particular behavior or thing. Compassion is expanded consciousness. So just breathe deeply in and say, I now ask for help from my spirit guides and the divine. May I transform my judgments into awakenings of compassion. So be it. And breathe deeply in and then releasing. And say, may all the heavy energy of judgment of myself or others now be set free. And breathe in, and really releasing through your belly, particularly that energy of judgment. And another one, say, I now release all bodily entrenched forms of judgment that hold me back from flowing with the energy of compassion, so be it. Breathe in and releasing all through your body and letting that go. And then just thinking about whether or not you really want to keep this other person stuck in negative consciousness. And if you don't, perhaps we can apologize for any part we're playing in bombarding them with thoughts of how negative they are, which they'll then live into. So just say, I sincerely apologize for keeping you locked into a small aspect of yourself by pouring judgment all over you. And I ask that this be released from you and released from me now. May it be disintegrated and set free. So be it. And breathe in and releasing. And say, I now ask that any negative consequence from the way we've held thought and belief and from the way we've judged, may this now be dissolved and disintegrated through the intercession of divine power. So be it. And breathe deeply in and releasing. And now just imagine a vortex of light coming down from above and filling your whole body, like a cone-shaped vortex coming in from above. Feel it expanding through your whole body and then moving slightly in front of you. And just asking that all of the judgment that's been stuck in the cells of your body and in your subconscious, in any level, physically, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually, let it get sucked out into this vortex. And see it coming out of you as particular fragments of color or little shapes or whatever it is that's best for you to breathe and then release all of that stuff into this big vortex of light. And letting it go, and just see the vortex then lifting into the heavens where the divine will transmute that energy with compassion. And contemplating how compassion and love are supported by having nice, strong, healthy, clear boundaries and good communication. And say, may I be blessed with better boundaries. May I develop them, study, and cultivate clear boundaries so my life continues to evolve, to improve, and may I awaken into my authentic self more than ever. So be it. And breathe deeply in and hold, and then breathe normally. And one last thing, just say, I set my spirit free of all impediments to the growth of compassionate consciousness. And may my consciousness expand from judgment to compassion. So be it. And breathe deeply in, and then let that expansion happen. And then just sending good wishes to someone who you might have been judging, someone in your personal life or someone on the world stage. Just asking them to remember love and to open to new ideas, for there to be peace and for there to be goodness more than ever, in full faith. So be it. And just feel your heart opening to new sets of possibilities for your own world. And then with a smile, you can open your eyes. Well done. I hope you feel a little lighter. These things are practices, so it's not the once-off thing that changes everything, although it can. But we practice these things over time, and over time our consciousness will evolve, will grow, and we'll be able to see through things in a way that we couldn't before, and play our own part in the lifting and shifting of the realities for all of us. Until next time, I'll see you later. I'm Shakti Durga, and thanks for being part of Mystery School. Namaste. Thanks for joining me for Mystery School, Ancient Wisdom for Everyday Life. For deeper experiential spiritual exploration, join me for Mystery School Living Light series, and for more information visit shantimission.org. See you next time.